President Trump's comments that Canada should become the 51st U.S. state was originally brushed off by many as a joke.
Yeah, but Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he doesn't think it's so funny. He was overheard telling a business gathering on Friday that Trump is serious. CNN's Paula Newton has more for us.
While many considered this a hot mic moment, in true fact, the Prime Minister has been warning people since he visited Trump in November after he was reelected that the president is serious. He doesn't understand why Canada can't just become the 51st state, and he will continue to try and press that argument. Now, this was a conference of business and labor leaders where they are all getting together to try to really formulate a plan and how to fight proposed American tariffs. But I want you to listen now to Justin Trudeau as he was addressing that room when he thought the media had left. Listen.
Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing.
Now, when he says it's a real thing, he is saying, look, the president is clear that this is a threat, that you come to the table, you negotiate a new trade deal with us along terms that we have asked for, or we will continue to push for this. And how does the Canadian government believe the American government will now push for this? By basically driving a very hard bargain economically, by punishing Canada economically, so that the only option left for Canada is to join the United States as a 51st state. I was speaking to people who were in the room as Trudeau was making this kind of an announcement and really trying to find a way to make sure that there is resolve from business and labor leaders in the room. They described the meeting as collaborative, but also that many people are now focusing on this in Canada and understanding that it is a real worry.
Since entering office, President Trump has been ambitious about territorial expansion, sounding more like Donald the Conqueror. He's insisted that the U.S. take ownership of the Gaza Strip and the Panama Canal. He's tried to buy Greenland from Denmark. He's pitched Canada on joining our union as the 51st state. And at his inauguration, Trump took America's original expansionist slogan and blasted it skyward.
We will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
We've been unable to secure comment on this from any Martians. American history has seen the country grow in size and Betsy Ross's flag grow in stars, but Trump's ideas ebb between delusions of grandeur and old-fashioned gunboat diplomacy. There was Trump's announcement that the U.S. would, quote, own Gaza, sending Palestinians to neighboring countries and establishing a, quote, Middle East Riviera. With literally no specifics laid out by the White House as to how exactly this would happen, the idea has received bipartisan and international condemnation as logistically impossible. Trump has also set his sights on, quote, seizing back the Panama Canal, which was signed over to Panama by Jimmy Carter in 1977. Trump has erroneously claimed that China is running the canal, which is actually operated by an independent authority in Panama. A subsidiary of a Hong Kong company runs two of the canal's ports, but does not control access to the canal. Trump has also floated the idea of purchasing Greenland from Denmark, a concept that, while not new in the grand scheme of American history, stands firmly against the interests of the people of Greenland, whose prime minister has said bluntly, quote, we want to be Greenlanders. And then there's Canada, the second largest country by landmass on the planet, my home country. I can't speak for Panamanians or Greenlanders, but I do have a suggestion for my fellow Canucks on this. Donald Trump has offered Canada the chance to become the 51st state. And I say, why stop there? Bear with me while I do a little math. Canada has 41 million people. They live in 10 provinces, which are like states, and 3 territories, which are like territories. So if Canada were to become America, some changes would be in order. First of all, Congress would have to grow. That would mean Canada, as part of the new America, would net at least 54 seats in the House of Representatives. For context, the 20 states with the smallest populations have just 46 House seats between all of them. But here's problem number one. This little thing called the Reapportionment Act of 1929 mandates that the U.S. House is no bigger than 435 members. So if you did the math, combining Canada's population with America's and dividing it by 435, Canada would net 47 seats, and those seats would be taken away from states all over the country. Who's going to tell all of those voters that Trump gave their congressional representation to a guy in Saskatchewan? And that's the House of Representatives. What about the Senate? Trump is only offering that Canada become one state with 2 senators. Canadian provinces, like American states, compete with one another. They aren't going to be all that interested in snuggling up into one state. Each province would have to be its own state. Hence, Canada wouldn't be the 51st state. It would be states 51 through 60 at the very least. And if it were 10 states, Canada would have 20 senators. It would be the largest reorientation of political power in America since women were given the right to vote in 1920. Trump is specifically asking Canada to join as just one state for that reason. It would likely swing power away from Republicans to do it any other way, which is why they've long opposed statehood for Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. They assume both would become Democratic strongholds, increasing the Democrats' control in Congress. Here's how Republican Senators Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham have weighed in on the issue over the years.
Any of us need D.C. and Puerto Rico being a state? That dilutes our power.
The House is voting tomorrow on a bill to make Washington, D.C. a state. If that sounds insane, you're not alone. So why are the Democrats pushing for it? The answer is simple: power. The Democrats want to make Washington a state because they want 2 new Democratic senators in perpetuity.
Now, if the thought of a couple of senators from Puerto Rico, like people who are actual American citizens, scares them, I wonder how 20 from the land of maple syrup, Mounties, and Anne of Green Gables is going to go over. And while it's difficult to compare American and Canadian politics directly, we've got some sense of how Canadians, or what might come to be known as Camericans, might vote. Canada has a multi-party parliamentary system, but in 2003, the Conservative parties united under one banner. And since then, the Conservatives have received, on average, about 35% of the popular vote in each election. The left of Conservative parties combined have received an average of 63% of the popular vote. Expansion from Canada to the Gulf of America might be a fun idea for Trump until our nice neighbors up north kick his party out of office and install a liberal supermajority. We haven't even talked about what this is going to do to the Supreme Court. Now, of course, in typical Canadian politeness, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said there's, quote, not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada joins America. But Canada, if I were you, maybe the chance to take over your noisy neighbor from inside isn't the worst idea in the world.
Friends, if you are worried and you are saying, what can I do to fight back against Trump's tariffs? You're worried about it. You're fed up about it. Here's what you can do. I'm here with Craig Sauvé. We're in Montreal. You can buy Canadian and boycott American. Come with me. Let me show you how you do that. So you pick up a product right here. Boom. Let's pick up this chocolate. Chocolate Boreal. Boy, I dropped another one. I have to buy that too. Chocolate Boreal, made in Canada, made in Quebec. That's good. Buy that. What else we got here? We got maple syrup, made in Canada. Got the Canadian flag. Check the label. Buy that. Buy Canadian, boycott American, and you can also sign the pledge that you are committing to do that. You're committing to support Canadian, and you're committing to boycott American. That's how you fight back. Let's show Trump that he messed with the wrong country.
Canada, in a closed-door meeting with business leaders, outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau warned that President Trump is serious about annexing Canada to make it the 51st state. Is he right? Is President Trump serious about planning to annex Canada?
Look, I think the Canadian people many of them would love to join the United States with no tariffs, with lower taxes, and I have all kinds of neighbors down in Florida that are Canadians that are escaping many of the liberal policies and have moved in. But look, what we're talking about
yes
here
or
is
no? First of all, I think some Canadians would disagree with you.
In the Western Hemisphere?
I think some Canadians would disagree with you, but just yes or no, is he planning to annex
part
Canada?
Of his policy. Well, I don't think there's any plans to invade Canada, if that's what you're talking about. But there is a lot of people that like what we have in the United States and do not like the last 10 years of liberal progressive governance in Trudeau. But really what you're seeing is a reassertion of American leadership in the Western Hemisphere from the Arctic all the way down to the Panama Canal. And that's what we're talking about, from Greenland to Arctic security, to the Panama Canal coming back under the United States. America has avoided our own hemisphere where we have the energy, the food, and the critical minerals for way too long. And you're seeing a reassertion of President Trump's leadership.
The New York Post has reported.
Folks, I think it's kind of ironic that on the day of the Super Bowl, which in many ways is like one of the biggest days on the calendar for the United States, it's really a global expression of Americanism. For good and bad, right? It's the, but it is America, right? There's only there's a couple things on the calendar where I can see you guys watching my videos less. It's like election nights and the Super Bowl, right? Because everyone's focused on the actual broadcasts, right? But Canada is showing that it's getting revenge on Trump. It's getting revenge by exposing his schemes. It's getting revenge because even though Trump has froze the tariffs, Canadians are buying Canadian more than ever, right? Donald has reinvigorated a certain buy Canadian sense, but also it notes that even if Trump was to annex Canada, Ali Velshi, who is a Canadian, basically shows that the House would likely be permanently Democrat. And that's even if you only have 2 senators. But remember, Canada has 10 provinces, guys. If you guys really wanted to pull it off and give us 20 senators, because again, it's 2 per province, that would be 20 senators. 17, 18, sometimes all 20 of which would be Democrat. Minimum 16, but probably 20 most of the time. The reddest province, Alberta, if you look at the pollings on hypothetical American pollings, it votes similarly to Maryland, which is one of the bluest states. So, Donald, you can threaten Canada all you like, but whether you succeed or fail, you lose.